Hello everybody, welcome to the Daily Sip. My name is Oliver. My mission is to bring you closer to organic Japanese green tea, and today we're gonna dive into roasted Japanese green tea, so-called Hojicha. Hojicha is nothing more than a sencha or even a bancha which has been roasted instead of only steam. When we go and dive into Japanese green tea, we know that Japanese green tea or typical sencha green tea is going through a steam bath right after the harvest. But in the 1920s of the last century in Kyoto, people also developed the method of just roasting the tea after it has been steamed. So what happens is that the tea production or the tea itself is harvested, then directly or within the 2 hours of time put into a steam bath, and then after the steam bath a normal sencha green tea is just steamed and also turned over time, and then also slowly the water is extracted from the tea leaf. But when we get to the end of the production process, the tea normally counts around to 5 to 7% of water, and then it is just dried. But with Hojicha it is different. Hojicha then is on an additional production process. It is actually put into a container which is over 100 degrees Celsius, so we talk here around 210 Fahrenheit, and then it is left in there for around 1 hour to become a beautiful, to get a beautiful brown color. If it is not roasted, we are talking about 60 to 7 degrees Celsius over 30 minutes. So this is a very, it's kind of a prolonged heating process of the tea leaves, and also it is at a high temperature of around 30 to 40 degrees Celsius higher. And then what is actually the result of this process? So when we just have a look at the typical leaves of Hojicha, we can see it is beautifully brown, has a little bit of a chocolatey flavor, and it often is a mix of a little bit of stems, normal leaves, or sometimes it can be of a higher grade, but often you just see stems in it, so it's often coming from a bancha. Some farmers also do it from a sencha, and often it is just a mix of different leaves. As the roasting gives the tea such a strong, such a kind of flavorful, different chocolatey flavor profile, then it is not really important, or for most of the farmer it's not an essential cue to just have the best leaves, but just to mix different leaves together which give a different taste thanks to the roasting, and then you have a beautiful Hojicha. And what I did today is actually that I cold brewed a Hojicha. So now we have 11 o'clock in the evening, but I cold brewed this at 7 o'clock. So we have here 4 hours of cold brewing of this tea. So I put in a little bit more than 600 milliliter of water and around 5 grams, and you can see also when we look at the bottom, so you can see some leaves are at the bottom, in the middle, and some are on top. So only 5 grams is enough for this amount of water. And now I'm curious to see how this tea actually tastes, because until now I only tasted Hojicha when it was hot brewed, but here we have a cold brew. So I'm really curious, because when you go into the green tea or sencha green tea and you make a cold brew, often you get these sweet, tender, smooth notes out of it. You get a little bit of fresh cucumber. Here, when we hot brew it, we often get chocolate. We get a little bit of a roasted flavor, smooth caramel notes. So this is a little bit the taste notes I get when I hot brew it, but now I'm curious to see what a cold brew is actually giving as a flavor profile. So just as you can see, I have here the Hario bottle. What this bottle has is actually that it has a built-in sifter, just for the tea leaves to keep them away. Very easy, simple, around $25 to $30 to buy, but certainly you can find cheaper options which you then can use for your cold brew. So we can see already color very beautiful. So beautiful dark golden color. When you hot brew it, it even gets a little bit darker. So here I'm expecting a little bit of a smoother tea. I think if I leave it overnight, it can become a little bit stronger. But here I have now these 4 hours of cold brewing. So cheers everybody. I'll have here my first sip of this tea. So as well as with the sencha, when you cold brew it, you get a more of a smoother and sweeter and finer taste profile. Here I get a lot of caramel notes. I get a little bit of this chocolatey, but kind of a smooth, nearly milk chocolatey flavor profile without the cream taste. Very, very tender around this caramel note. A lot of caramel notes. When I hot brew this tea normally, so this is a tea which is a nice balance between kind of this roasted flavor profile and a little bit of this chocolatey caramel flavor profile. But when I cold brew it now, I get a lot of these caramel notes, a little bit of these chocolatey notes, but nearly none of this roasted flavor profile. So also with Hojicha, it is the case that you actually get a beautiful smooth tea. Also, when you cold brew sencha or normal green tea, then you get the smoothness, refreshing, finer taste notes out of it, a little bit more refreshing taste notes, and here it's definitely anchored in its sweetness, in kind of nearly of a little bit of a sugary flavor profile, adding itself to the smoothness and the kind of this chocolate flavor of the Hojicha. So definitely a great tea. It's definitely also a great tea for the evening time. Hojicha, as you might know, is very, very low in caffeine. Nearly no caffeine is in this tea. So it's a perfect evening tea, hot, but also a perfect evening cold. So when you brew this one here, give it a little bit of time. Here I have 4 hours, definitely a good time, but you can also leave it overnight and just maybe take it to the evening after, or you just start to cold brew it in the morning when you leave the house, you leave it at home, you put it into the fridge, and then you just enjoy a beautiful cold glass of Hojicha. This is what I do now. Cheers everybody, thanks for watching, and if you ever have a question, leave a comment, ask me anything, I'll be happy to answer. Bye.